What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Corvette Weekly. Tonight is going to be an interesting discussion. I've had this particular topic come up requested probably 350 times. So tonight we're going to be talking all about the C8 Corvette dual clutch transmission maintenance plan, maintenance schedule, maintenance period is what it's going to be about. So if you own a C8 Corvette, doesn't matter what year it is, this is going to apply to you. So outside of that, we have a couple things we want to discuss really quickly early on. I am going to have Keith from C8RallyDriver tuning in a little bit later today. As soon as he gets on, we're going to have him pop in really quick and talk to us a little bit about the C8RallyDriver experience. That's who is sponsoring the live videos for the month of May. And we're doing a giveaway tonight as well. So we've got a lot of things going on. There's going to be a lot of discussion happening, and I want to hear questions from you guys. So if you have questions about the warranty, the transmission warranty, anything specific that I'm not covering, put it in the chat section, because I've got pretty much all of the information I could gather from the internet, from GM, from the people in the know, and my own personal experience. I think we have pretty much everything covered here tonight. So let's start off with this, which is the C5 Corvette, the 700 horsepower twin turbocharged C5 Corvette. It is still for sale, guys. I have a potential buyer on the hook. He's actually a subscriber. I don't know, he might be watching. His name's Ken. We're going to talk later tonight about it, but if he doesn't buy it, this car is still available. So be sure, if you're interested in this thing, to get onto the website. Let us know your interest. This is the new particular spot of the website. You go to horsepowerobsessed.com, and up at the top you'll see HPO Corvette Exchange. And you click on that, and featured car of the month, of course, is the C5 twin turbo 700 horsepower wheel. 700 horsepower at the wheels. This is not at the crank. So 700 horsepower at the wheels, and everything that could be done has been done to this car, and it can be yours for a really reasonable price. Right now it is $42,000 or best offer. So if you're interested, check out the website, throw your hat in the ring, so to speak. But outside of that, guys, like I said, tonight is all about the transmission, so I'm definitely wanting to hear from all of you. Looks like we got Jeff in the house, Jeff Zippy's Garage, Kevin Horan, Ron Jackson, Rand. We got a bunch of the normals in here, the usual suspects, we'll say. What's going on, everybody? Everybody's talking about the horsepower obsessed crew here. It's just me tonight, possibly Keith. Once he tunes in, like I said, I will bring him into the show to talk a little bit more about what he does with C8RallyDriver. But since he's not here right this second, let's just start right into this thing. We're going to start with the news. There is one thing I want to cover before we jump into the dual clutch transmission stuff, and that's going to be, really quickly, if you guys haven't seen this yet, the Carbon Revolution, who makes the wheels for the C8 Corvette Z06 and the ZR1, the carbon fiber wheels. They announced record revenue results for 2024. Who would have thought? So a company that makes carbon fiber wheels has started making the wheels for a large production car company such as GM with Corvettes, and they have their best year yet as of 2024. So they are also making these for the E-Ray. So E-Ray, Z06, and ZR1, carbon fiber wheel options, and GM does not charge lightly for these things. They are around $14,000 as an option, and wouldn't you know it, that leads to one of the best fiscal years for Carbon Revolution. How about that? So, just wanted to throw that out there really quick. Joeler will not be on here tonight. He's actually got to catch a plane pretty early in the morning, I guess. But yeah, I already mentioned the C5 that we're giving away. Like I said, guys, 700 horsepower C5 Corvette. I'm sorry, we're not giving it away. It is for sale. We are doing the HPO Corvette Exchange, which is all that is me using my audience here and my presence online to connect two Corvette people together, a seller and a buyer. So if you have a car to sell, or if you have a car you're looking to buy, you can email the HPO Corvette Exchange right on the website and let us know what you're looking for. With that said, Joe did want me to also mention that we are looking for right now a C7 Corvette Z06 in automatic and a C6 Corvette in a manual. So not a Z06, just C6 Corvette manual, C7 Corvette Z06, and an automatic. We got 2 people interested in those 2 particular cars as well. So if you are looking to sell one of those, feel free to go on the website, let me know, and we might be able to find you a buyer. So let's see what we got here. Professor Corvette, of course, looking for a low mileage 2025 ZR1. You haven't even gotten to enjoy your Z06 yet, so I don't think you need a ZR1 just yet. But anyway, if we have, yeah, guys, let's smash the thumbs up. Let's get those going real quick, because tonight's going to be a really steady talk about the dual clutch transmission maintenance schedule. I'm not going to have a lot of time to consistently mention the thumbs ups like I usually do. I would like to just have you guys smash them when you can. It really helps out a lot. Jeff says he has a, well, we're typically trying to avoid dealerships with this stuff because typically the prices with working with the dealerships to get 2 people connected is can be rough. But hit me up after the show, Jeff. Let me know what the price on that C6 or C7 Z06 might be. Kevin Reynolds, I did not install the ZR1 wing yet. I will do it eventually. RSC is still kind of working on it, so it's not official there yet. But yeah. We got a new viewer, Reg. All right, so guys, let's get into the information tonight on the dual clutch transmission. I want you guys to throw any questions you have about the maintenance plan, because like I said, I've gotten this request a bunch of times. Tonight's all about the dual clutch transmission maintenance. What do you guys need to know about this? So I'm going to start at the top here. Professor Corvette says, DCT, 7,500 miles. What more is there to know? Man, there is a ton more to know. So right off the bat, I want to tell you guys the transmission filter, dual clutch transmission filter, which is the canister filter, the external filter that you can change on your own, has to be changed at 7,500 miles according to GM's own personal maintenance plan schedule. So if you don't change it at 7,500 miles, they can void your warranty. Now, a lot of you guys, anybody who's watching the channel on a regular basis, you're going to notice I've changed mine twice before the 7,500 mile mark. That doesn't matter. You can change that filter 36 times before 7,500 miles. They still want it done again at 7,500 miles. So it doesn't matter if you change it prior to or right after. It doesn't matter. 7,500 miles, it has to be done. So the video I created showing me changing my filter on my car was done at 6,000 miles. I made another one whenever I was at the dealership getting it changed at 8,000 miles, because you have plus or minus 500 miles on either side of that 7,500. I did that only for proof, for warranty reasons. Let me say it again. I know this is not necessarily, cut and dry and clear with the way the GM words this. It has to be changed at 7,500 miles. It doesn't matter if you've done it beforehand, or basically it has to be done between 7,000 and 8,000 miles. If you do it anywhere in between there, you got to do it again at 7,000, 7,500, or 8,000 miles, anywhere in that 1,000 mile area. GM needs to see that done. Now, you can do it yourself. You'll just have to have receipts and records that you did it, or you take it to GM and get it done for free. Again, I did mine early. So I wanted mine done prior to when GM says that it should be done, because I don't believe that 7,500 miles is soon enough. Personally, I did mine at about 2,000 miles and immediately noticed better shifting. Literally softer, brand new car-ish shifting. So I think the filter needs to be done more often, but if you are going to go simply by what GM says, do it at 7,500 miles, and then again, every 22,500 after that. So again, if we look at the schedule here, you can see the part noted in yellow. It says change the dual clutch transmission canister. First time 7,500 miles, second time 22,500, Third time, 45,000. Fourth time, 67,500. There's just, to me, there's no way I would ever let that canister filter ride that long. But if you're going by what GM says, do it at 7,500 miles. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg here, guys. Like the comment pin on the screen there from Professor Corvette says 7,500 miles. What else is there to know? There's a lot more to know than that. Outside of just the filter alone, there is a significant amount of transmission information, transmission maintenance that you have to do or you have to know about in order to maintain a warranty. GM can literally cancel your warranty, and we're going to talk about that in a second, where GM actually sends out a document that's talking about canceling your warranty if you don't follow this stuff to an absolute T. So let's see what else we got here. Riptide Rick, that's a great question. Do you only have 2 years to get the 7,500 miles? No, they actually changed it on the 2024s, I believe it was. They changed it to 3 years now. If you're not going to hit 7,500 miles within the first 3 years, I would still use that free filter change, use your free oil change, and then do it yourself again at the 7,500 mile mark. Just make sure you keep a record of everything you've done so it can be used with GM to make sure your warranty is good. No, Bill says the internal filter is changed at 22,500. It is not. The internal filter is never changed on this transmission unless there is a catastrophic event. That's something else we're going to talk about tonight. There is 2 filters in this transmission. An external canister filter, which is changed at 7,500, then every 22,000 miles after that. And the second one is an internal filter that is never touched. Literally, you will never change this filter. GM refers to it as a lifetime filter. The only time you'll change that filter is if something catastrophic happened to your transmission where you blew it up and it had to be rebuilt, which GM doesn't even seem to do anyway. So ultimately, you're never going to touch that filter. If you ever drop the pan on the transmission for any reason, that would be when you would change that filter just because you're already in there, but there is no reason to do that outside of you just being overly cautious. Ron Jackson, that's exactly how I feel about it. He says, the more service, the better. You can never over-service this car. Fresh oil, trans or engine plus filters, cheap insurance. That's it. If you're going to do nothing else to this car, nothing else to any car really, except for oil changes, that will keep that engine running better than anything else. Same applies to the transmission. If you're going to do nothing else, change the filter, change the fluid. Those 2 things will keep a happy transmission in your car. So outside of the 7,500 mile external transmission filter change, you have to do that more often than GM recommends. If you're asking me personally, I would probably do it every oil change. The filter's not cheap, but I have found them online for roughly $80 to $100. If you're going to do it every oil change like I do, that's not really that much money to maintain a supercar. With all this said, the next step is where things start to get really hairy, because the next step is the transmission fluid. The dual clutch fluid is really important on this particular transmission. The fluid itself is something very specific to this transmission. You have to buy it from GM. You can't go with AMSOIL or Mobil 1 or anything. You got to get it directly from GM, and it is expensive. It is around, the cheapest I could find is around $30 per quart. And you're going to need 11 to 12 quarts to fill this transmission. So why is this a hairy situation? Because the fluid actually needs to be changed whether you have hit the 45,000 mile mark or not. It has to be changed every 3 years. 3 years. So if you bought a 2023 like I did, you have a 2023 Z06 sitting in your garage, that's next year. You need to change this fluid next year. I don't have 45,000 miles on my car. You probably don't either. 45,000 miles in 3 years is a lot of miles. You're probably never going to hit the mileage before you hit the time. So if you're at 3 years, you need to completely drain and refill your transmission with this special transmission fluid that is roughly $30 to $40 a quart. And you need 11 or 12, depending on exactly how much comes out. Now, again, this is one of those things that there is a lot of misinformation on out there, and we're going to try to clear some of it up today because there is some procedures here from GM that I want to go over with you guys. Number one, you do not need to do a flush. A lot of you guys have asked me about this. There is a flush procedure that the GM dealership does when you take the car in to have your transmission canister filter changed. They put it up on the lift and they plug in an OBD2 port and they click a button on their computer and it just holds the RPM at 3,000 or 3,000 on the car for 10 minutes. That's called their flush procedure. All that's doing is the exact same thing your car does when you drive it to the dealership. So assuming you're able to drive it to the dealership, your transmission has already done that. The dealerships have the ability to do it, so they do it. So that's the reason. There is no other reason outside of that. You do not have to do the flush procedure. If you're doing the transmission filter change at home, you do not have to do the flush procedure. Don't take my word for it. Josh Holder himself has said you do not need to do this. I'll play a clip in a little bit here from Josh Holder himself saying that you don't need to do the flush procedure if you're doing this at home. So outside of that, if you want to drain your transmission fluid and refill it yourself, you're also able to do that. You'll just need a record of the fact that you did it. So receipts for the dual clutch transmission fluid. In my case, I'll make a video out of it so I can always reference that kind of stuff. But where things get interesting is a lot of people don't know where the fill port, drain port, or overfill port are on the transmission. We're going to talk about that right now. Because again, if you have a 2023 Z06 and up, obviously this is going to apply to you. If you have a 2023 or older Stingray, this kind of applies. We'll talk about all of it tonight. But for the most part, let's start here. You can see the two drain plugs marked in red on this particular image. The first one, marked number 1, is the transmission fluid level. That is your normal fill port. The one marked number 2, which is on the bottom of that image, is your drain plug. So you remove the drain plug, all the fluid comes out. Once the fluid's out, you put the drain plug back in. You take out the number 1 drain plug or fill port plug, and you pump fluid into that port until it starts to come out. At that point, you cap it back off, your transmission's full. That is the case for any transmission out there. So whether you have a 2020 to a 2025, that's the process for filling the transmission fluid to the normal level. It is that simple. Just like a manual transmission or just like an oil change. If you want to change the fluid in your transmission, you drain it, cap it off, and fill it. That's it. That's the fill process. Now you're going to need roughly 12 quarts to fill it. And the quarts are not cheap, like I said. But once that's done, you're full. Now, I'm going to get the question, what about the guys for a 2020 to 2023 Stingrays, and you want to overfill your transmission? That was adding those extra 2 quarts. That's over full. So when GM told you you have to add these extra 2 quarts for track use for the 2020s to the 2023 Stingrays, you do have to add those extra 2 quarts, but you're actually overfilling the transmission by 2 quarts. So you can't use the regular drain plug or regular fill port plug, because as soon as you take that out, transmission fluid is going to start leaking out because you already are at the normal fill level. So what do? How do you overfill this thing, Justin? Well, the next picture here I'm going to show you is how you do that. If you have a Stingray, this is what you have to do. You basically have to remove the air box from the back side of the car, and there's a gold plug that you can see him pointing at in the bottom picture there. That gold plug has to be removed. You have to use a really fine funnel, and that's where you add your additional 2 quarts. Now, this is something that the dealership charges a decent amount of money for, because there's a decent amount of labor involved in this. To take off the back of the car, not the bumper, but the area where you get into the access for the air filters and everything. Then you got to take the air filter box completely out, which is, kind of a chore in itself. Then you get to the point where you can find this plug. Then you have to add the 2 quarts, which are between $30 and $45 from the dealership, of fluid into it, cap it back off, and put everything back together. Ideally, you only have to do this once, as long as the dealerships are always alerted to the fact that you have these extra 2 quarts, because if they're not, they'll drain that, and then that's on you. So that's it. That's really it. The process for changing the transmission fluid is really pretty simple. Drain and fill. There's no flush involved. There's no internal transmission filter that needs to be changed. If you want to do it at the same time you change your external transmission canister filter, I probably would do that at the same time personally. You can do that too. You take out the bolts for the transmission filter, drop the filter, drain the transmission, cap that off, fill it up with your 12 quarts. You're good. That's your transmission maintenance. A lot of people out there, I've seen a bunch of people talking about this, making this some huge deal, and I don't know why. I mean, I literally got a comment on one of my channels or one of my videos the other day that said that this person wasn't going to buy the C8 Corvette because of how crazy the C8 transmission maintenance is. That's not crazy at all. I mean, every 3 years might be a little bit much, but at the same time, you can do this yourself. If you have a set of quick jacks like I do, or access to a lift, it is drain and fill. That's simple. Let's see. Yeah, you can do the jacking up on the driver's side for the 2020s to the 2023. If you jack up on the driver's side, it's going to kind of unlevel the car, and all the fluid's going to run to the other side. So then you could use the normal fill port. But I don't necessarily recommend that because it's kind of not safe. You know, I don't want to talk too much about that aspect of it. Going into the fill port or the overfill port in the back is the best way to do it. Yeah. So Mark Cutsey says, if you're wrenching on your C8 like he does himself, in the My Chevy app, there's an area under account that allows you to add service into your history. So you can pretty much add your own service. If you've done something that the dealership didn't have any part of, but you want there to be a record of it, you can add it there. Again, keep your receipts. If you're a YouTuber or you have the ability to film anything, just in case, film it. Let's see. The Baron says, any updates on your Forge Light mag wheels? I ordered mine 2+ weeks ago, gave my deposit, and was told to final designs. Baron, I've heard that mine are just waiting paint or powder coat, which if I had to guess, yours are. That's the same thing with yours. At this point, I know the wheels are done. They're just waiting for powder. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why GM says every 3 years you change that fluid. And it's not just because they want to. That fluid does absorb moisture. And eventually, whether you're driving it or not, that fluid is now not any good. And that kind of brings me to my next point. You can drain the transmission, fill your transmission. You can do all this yourself. But where things get interesting again is the fact that you got to watch where you're buying this fluid from. Because it does have an expiration date. It has a shelf life, just like any fluid out there. And typically with the fluids that have the shorter shelf lives are fluids that are hydroscopic, which means they absorb moisture. So your brake fluids are usually hydroscopic. Once you crack open that silver layer on the top, you have a limited amount of time to use that fluid before that fluid is no good, because it will absorb moisture out of the air. This transmission fluid for your DCT is no different. It will do the same thing. And as you can see on the back, it has an expiration date, a shelf life. So if this thing's been sitting on a shelf for the last 10 years, it's not any good. It's going to have a date as to when to use it by. And as you can see here circled, this particular date says 2025. So January 2025. So that fluid that's pictured right there would effectively be no good right now. This is something you want to watch for, because if you buy this fluid online from any aftermarket retailer, this is something you're going to want to watch for, because maybe they're selling the fluid for way cheaper than GM does. This would be why. They may be selling you fluid that expired 2 years ago. And another thing, when you're doing this, if you do decide to do this yourself and you're adding that fluid into the transmission yourself, make sure you shake that bottle vigorously. There's a lot of detergents and lubricants that are suspended in that oil that sink to the bottom. Shake it up really well before you pump it into the transmission, just so everything is ready to go. So let me see if we have any questions here, because like I said, guys, I want to keep up with the questions on this. This has become kind of an interesting topic, because people are not really aware of what the maintenance on this thing really is. Some people think it's way worse than it is. Some people think it's nothing. Like, they don't even know that you need to do some of this stuff. Kevin Reynolds says he likes having the dealership change it. That way there's a record of it being done and he has no issues. That is a good way to do it. Unless you're like me and a Mark Cutsey here, where you want to do it yourself. And if you really do want to do it yourself and keep your cars out of potential harm's way by having the dealership do it, you can still do it yourself as long as you maintain records and have proof of that being done. For me, you're going to see YouTube videos for me changing my transmission filter and my transmission fluid. Every single time I do it, I'm going to make a video of it because I want there to be literal video evidence that it was done. Stephen Rapp says, good point on the expiration date on the trans fluid. Absolutely. That's what this is all about. I want to try to educate and bring everybody to the understanding that the transmission maintenance on this car is not really that bad. I've heard a lot of people complaining about it recently. It's really not that much. So, yeah. That's a good question. Professor Corvette says, are DCTs on other cars as maintenance specific as the C8? They might be, they might not be. This particular transmission is used in other cars. This is not just the C8 Corvette transmission. Tremec designed this to be used in a couple different cars. I can't remember what cars they are off the top of my head, but yeah. No, so that's another thing is everything we're talking about tonight is the same maintenance plan for any one of the C8 Corvettes. So if you have an E-Ray, Stingray, Z06, or even the ZR1, they all follow this same schedule. Change that canister filter by 7,500 miles. Do it more if you're asking me, more often, but you have to do it at 7,500 miles for GM warranty purposes. Change the fluid every 3 years or 45,000 miles. If you hit 45,000 miles before 3 years, you got to change it then. But at worst case, change it at 3 years because it is hygroscopic, meaning it will absorb moisture and eventually it goes bad even if you're not driving it. If you've got 2,000 miles on the car and it's 3 years old, you got to change your transmission fluid. That's the way it works. It is kind of expensive, but the process of changing it's really not that difficult. It's drain and fill, just like an oil change. Now, if you guys really want to get crazy with this, you can do something that I know Brandon did from Brandon's Garage, and that was he actually cut a hole in the underbody pan for the transmission and put a little door on it so you can have access to the filter without taking that pan off. I think this is a fantastic idea. This saves a ton of work and it gives you access to the fill and drain port on the transmission as well. So you don't have to drop that pan to do any of the maintenance on the transmission. So if you're changing the filter or the fluid, you can do it right through that little door right there rather than dropping that entire pan, which that pan has like 30 bolts on it. Really something cool to look into. Brandon's Garage has done this and he made a video of it. I plan on doing it and trying to make a more educational kind of video out of it, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So if you guys are interested in that, I will be doing that at some point this summer. So again, this is all about keeping the maintenance done on the transmission, but also doing it in a way that makes sense for you, making it as easy as possible. Malcolm James says, so if I was changing my fluid today, what would be a good expiration date? That's a fantastic question. Really, the expiration date, as long as it's within, I'd say a year or so, it doesn't, the expiration date on the bottle doesn't really mean when it will expire in your transmission. It means when that fluid should be used by. So as you're dumping it into your transmission, you should not be dumping it in there after the expiration date on that bottle. As long as you're before that expiration date, you should be fine. Smag says, draining or flushing, what's the difference? So this is where dealerships will get you because they'll use the term flush all the time. And you'll just assume, okay, that's not something I can do at home, so I can't do this. It's not a flush procedure. All this is you crack a plug, let it drain out, and then you put the plug back on and fill it up. A flush procedure would literally be a machine that connects one tube to the fill, one tube to the drain, and you turn it on and it literally forces fluid through. That's a flush. You don't have to flush this transmission. This is just a drain and fill procedure. Now, with that said, when you drain the transmission, you're not going to get every drop of the old fluid out. Same with a regular oil change. You're not getting every single drop of oil out of your engine. You're changing, 95% of it, which is enough to be, good, especially if you're changing the filter at the same time. Mark Cutsey says, I changed my DCT filter last week, and if I counted correctly, there are literally 50 bolts that need to be removed from the two underbody panels, but don't let that deter you. It's super easy. So he's right. There's roughly, I would say, between 30 and 50 bolts, but if he counted 50, I'll trust him. It's not that they're hard to get to. It's just a lot of bolts. So if you do it the right way and you take off that underbody pan, you cut a hole in it, put a little door on it like Brandon did, it makes it a lot easier in the future because now you don't have to worry about taking all those bolts out. You just open up the door, take off the 4 bolts for your transmission filter housing, and pop it out. So this is the way to make it, easy. And yeah, John Perkins says it has to be an unopened bottle. So if you're looking at the back of your bottle and it says, oh, the expiration date's in 2 years from now, but you opened it 6 months ago, that expiration date doesn't apply anymore. That fluid is probably bad. So to have an open bottle of even brake fluid sitting in your garage, it does not stay good for very long. I would say less than a couple days. So hydroscopic fluid is going to absorb moisture out of the air the second you open it. So you want to open it, dump it into that transmission as soon as possible. Riptide Rick, I will be doing a video on that myself, but until then, if you want to see something, Brandon from Brandon's Garage did it already. If you want to check it out before I'm able to make one, because I'm still probably at least a couple months from being able to make one. Everything I've seen, it is not a hydraulic flush. So what you're referring to, Larry, is the flush procedure that's done before the transmission filter is replaced, and you don't have to do that. I'm actually going to show you guys, since that's been brought up, I'm going to show you guys a video of it now from Josh Holder himself, talking about the fact that you do not have to do that flush procedure. So just so we're all on the same page, here we go. Listen to this.
What does the hydraulic system flush do, and should it be done every time the DCT external canister is replaced? That's a good technical question.
It is, so I'll take a start at it. The hydraulic system flush does kind of the way it's described. It forces transmission fluid through the fine filter, the filter that you replace. So at a dealership, they can hook up the dealer service tool to the car and run a routine that will tell the trans control module to do this fluid filter flush.
Okay.
And because the car is already hoisted on a rack, the technician's already got the panels off, there's some other work he's doing. This kind of happens in parallel in the background.
Okay.
So we're doing it at a dealer visit because we can, and we can take the last bit of whatever contamination might be in the oil and get it into the filter before the technician replaces it. Do-it-yourselfers have become nervous that, hey, now I can't do it myself. I don't have a service tool. I can't force this routine. You don't have to do the routine. Like I said, we do it because we can. But the fine filtering routine happens through normal driving anyway. In fact, when you're driving steady state, like say down the highway,
right,
we run a routine in the transmission that will force more of that fluid through the fine filter. So normal driving is doing this. If you are a do-it-yourselfer, you don't want anyone else touching your car, you can change the trans filter without running this routine.
Okay.
So there you have it. Josh Holder himself. Video evidence of him saying you do not have to do the hydraulic system flush. Don't have to do it. So if you want to do this procedure at home, the way I've done multiple times now, I'm on my 4th transmission filter change. You don't have to run the hydraulic system flush. So I'm glad you brought that up, Larry. It is a great point because everybody thinks that is something you have to do. You don't. Flexen in Cloud says, guess how much maintenance is required on manuals? Basically none. So, there's a lot wrong with that statement, Flexen, but ultimately the same maintenance you would do on a manual transmission, which is a drain and fill procedure, is exactly what you would do with the DCT transmission. There is no flush. There's no nothing else involved. So drain, fill, just like an oil change. Yeah, you can drive it a bit hard. You don't even have to drive it hard. Just drive it a little bit and do it while it's still kind of hot. Hot fluid flows better than cold fluid. you don't want to burn yourself, but at the same time, do it while it's still on the warmer side. Steven says, could that impact warranty cutting a hole? No. So all you're doing is cutting a hole in the panel. You're not touching anything electronic. You're not touching anything that is drivetrain related. It's literally just an access panel. That would be my only concern, Hot Rod Todd. He said that could be an issue if that large plate has a structural purpose. I don't have the answer for that, but based on what I have seen and what I have personally experienced, I don't think it does. But there is a reason why that particular panel is metal, and I've been back and forth with this myself a couple times. The only thing I can come up with is that pan is metal because of where it sits, right below all the hot stuff. So it could melt if it wasn't metal. With that said, I don't think there's a problem with cutting a hole in it for access, but yeah, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know. Again, Ron Jackson says kind of the same thing. The under is a structural shear plate. I have not heard that from any official source that plate has any kind of structural reasons to be there. But yeah, again, I'll leave that up to you guys. I don't have an answer for. No, there would be no reason to refrigerate it after opening. That's not really going to help anything. It's going to make the fluid cold. That would be about it. Yeah, if you do track your car or autocross or do any kind of seriously heavy driving, you should be changing the DCT filter more often. But at the same time, if you're doing it as often as I am, which is pretty much every oil change, you'd still be fine anyway. MDK says it's a good idea on the maintenance store. Wonders why GM didn't do this. The only thing I could think that GM didn't do this for was because they didn't want you to be able to do these filter changes as easily with a door. Hot Rod Todd says he talked to a lead transmission engineer at the Bash. He seemed to find it unlikely that there's any value in changing the filter early. I can tell you without a doubt, every single time I change that filter, it feels like that transmission shifts better. What I'm doing is prolonging the life of the fluid / transmission in general. You can take my advice if you'd like. If not, follow GM's record or maintenance plan for this. I'm totally okay with any one of them. My point with it is, with a filter or fluid, you can never do it too much. So if you want your car to last, if you want your car to run like it should for as long as possible, do it more often. Just don't do it less often than GM recommends. Do it at least as often as GM recommends, or as much as you'd like. I'm going to do mine every oil change because I am under the very firm belief you can't do it too much. So why not? Professor Corvette says, are you sure that video wasn't a deep fake? Yeah, so it was actually, that particular interview was done last year at the Bash on the Corvette Today podcast. So with Stephen Garrett, I talk to Stephen Garrett all the time. He was legitimately there with Taj and Josh Holder, and they were answering these questions. So it's on his podcast. It is very clearly not a deep fake. No, you definitely don't have to flush it after every track day. That would be crazy. MDK says I'm changing my oil and DCT filter every 2,500 miles since I have a lift in my garage. That's the way to do it. Like I said, you can't do it too often. So change it as often as you'd like, but do it at least as much as GM recommends. You don't have to necessarily follow my advice or any one of our advices. Just do it as often as GM recommends, which is 7,500 miles and then 22,500 after that. And you have to do that fluid every 3 years, regardless of how many miles you have on it. So like I said, you could have a brand new car sitting there that you've never driven. If it's 3 years old, it's time for a transmission fluid change. So Kevin Horan says before he tracked the car, he was at 99%. Then 2 days after, went to 97. This is something that particular, monitor, you might not necessarily want to completely pay attention to that when you're tracking the car. So personally, if I'm tracking the car and I'm doing it hard for, we'll say, a weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, I probably would replace the trans filter and maybe even my oil afterwards. That really depends on how hard you're going and how long you're going at it. That's a good question, or a good point. Maybe we can submit a question to cutting the hole in the panel for Steve Garrett. Yeah, that's a really good question. So maybe then we can have Josh Holder answer that as well. Yep. Lower pan is also metal to protect the engine. It's a dry sump, so there's no oil pan to take the hit. So between being there for heat purposes and also somewhat of protection purposes, you can almost view it as like a skid plate on a truck. That's probably the real reason. I cannot see that having structural integration on that vehicle at all, because I mean it's literally just held on with bolts, and they're not even torqued to any kind of serious foot pounds or anything. Yeah, and honestly, Hot Rod Todd says he said that he told him it was noticeable in driving, but he'd like to see the data. Really what it comes down to is GM is going to tell you a certain interval to change the oil and everything for a multitude of reasons. The biggest one being they are kind of handcuffed by the EPA because they don't want you dropping filters out every 2,000 miles and throwing them away irresponsibly, blah, 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 if you don't have to or have to. So they're kind of handcuffed in that aspect right off the bat. But number two, their data might show that it can go 7,500 miles under this list of circumstances. If you live in a slightly dustier environment or you drive your car slightly harder than they did in their testing, then all of a sudden it's different. So like I said, you can't change it too often. LT4 Powered says, we're supposed to change the oil? Yeah, so Chopper Larry says, I changed that filter on his MC20 even at less than 2K, and it makes a difference. Oh, yeah. Was it that... I think it was actually the MC20 that uses the same transmission. Is that right? I can't remember which cars it was now, but it might be that. I know we were talking about that at the bash. Yeah, John, that was done last year's bash. So this is another good point. Bill Miller brings up a point that I wanted to touch on as well. He says, please be aware that with every DCT filter change, you'll lose about 6 ounces of fluid. So remember this, as you may need to add fluid every so often, especially for the pre-2024 DCTs and planning. So ultimately, when you take off that plate that covers your external canister filter, a little bit of fluid is going to come out, roughly 6 ounces. I've done mine now. The last time the dealer did it, I had done it 3 times. So I did it twice, and then the dealer did it once. And I had him check my transmission fluid just to make sure, because I'd changed the filters at that point 3 times. When he went to open up the fill port, fluid was still coming out. So it was still full. So 3 filters in, losing somewhere around 3 to 6 ounces every time you pull that cap off. I still was at more than enough fluid for that transmission. So check it, absolutely. But odds are good you're not going to have to add any. Les says, good evening, Justin. I love that wall behind you. Cool setup. Thank you. That believe it or not, that actually took a little while to set that up the way that I liked it. Robert says, Justin, in a C701, you have to change all fluids after a track day. Again, would I? Probably. But it depends on how hard you're going. If I go out on the track and I don't feel like I really drove it any harder than I would on the street, then I'm not going to change anything. But if you're going crazy with it, yeah, you probably should. Reg says, awesome live feed, great info. Thanks, HPO. Catch you on the next one. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the support as always, guys. IEB says, how do you feel about the Z06 engine, and do you think it's going to be reliable in the future? This is another question that's come up a lot. I have had 0 reliability issues with my Z06. I'm at 11,000 miles on my car now, and I do not drive it easy. I drive it pretty hard. So no issues on mine, no ticking, no random weirdness. But again, I change my oil and the oil filter religiously. So if you're taking care of that engine, it's going to take care of you. Just be mindful of the maintenance. Most regulated industry in the world. There you go. And that's, I guarantee you, that's why those oil change and transmission filter and transmission oil changes are so far spaced apart. I guarantee it's the EPA. Odds are very good GM would like you to change those filters and fluids more often, but the EPA handcuffs them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the wing. It was still in development. All right, so C8RallyDriver says, hey, Justin, we doing a giveaway tonight? Need some parts for a new Z06. So that sounds like a pretty good segment into talking about tonight's giveaway. So again, guys, C8RallyDriver is the sponsor for the month of May. We've talked about the website a couple times, but let's talk about what's getting given away tonight, because this is a 3 kind of parter. So tonight, the person who wins, and Riptide Rick, just so you guys know, Riptide Rick has won the last 2. So you guys don't want to let him win this one. This one is going to be 3 different pieces. It's going to start with the engine builder plaque, which you can, of course, get this in any color you want. So you can see here on the website, any color you want. It also comes in carbon fiber, forged carbon fiber, and regular 2x2 twill, I think it is. Maybe it's 3. Yeah, 3K. So if it, whatever you want, you can get this. This is for your Z06. Now, not all of these pieces are for specifically for the Z06, but this one is. This is $150 value if you guys want to do this. These are normally aluminum, or you can get them in carbon fiber. This will be given away alongside the access covers. Now, this, again, can be done in any color you want. This is good for any C8 Corvette out there, whether you have an E-Ray, Z06, Stingray, or if you magically have a ZR1 sitting in your backyard, this will work. So you can add Corvette logos, Stingrays, whatever you want, and you can customize it. So for Riptide Rick, look how good that looks sitting beside the hatch support that you already won. That could be yours. So you'll get the access covers, which go right beside, basically, when you open up the hatch, it's for the seatbelt. They'll go right there. You also can win this. These are going to be given away together, guys. This is the latch plate. So when you open up your rear hatch, where your engine's at, this is the area that covers up where the little actual pin goes down to hold the trunk lid closed. So this can be customized again, whatever color you want, plus carbon fiber inserts or a different color insert in there to really spice things up. So it's a 3-parter. Aluminum latch plates, color, however, whatever color you want, $150 value. Access covers, any color you want, plus even Corvette emblems on there if you want, $160 value. And the engine builder plaque from C8RallyDriver, $150 value, carbon fiber, or whatever color you want. So this is the giveaway tonight, guys. It's a 3-piece kind of thing. Same rules as always. Every $10 is an entry. $50 or more is double entries. So I would imagine at this point, I would probably be getting a donation from Riptide Rick, because he has literally saved like $600 on C8RallyDriver parts because of this. Yeah, let's go Riptide Rick. At this point, no point messing around. So let's see. Yeah, so Jeff said you're correct on the length of time that affects the motor oil and trans oil. I sold a few 2024 leftovers that sat on the lot for 9 months. Percentage of life for each was down to about 65%. I talk to subscribers on a daily basis that say, Justin, I just got into my car for the first time this year, and when I started it up, it's popping up and telling me I need to change my oil. I just changed my oil 3 months ago. Or I'm sorry, not 3 months ago. You know, they changed it a couple months ago, but haven't driven it since. It just sat. And I said, well, the oil life monitor is not just mileage based. If you put no miles on it, but that car sits for 6 or 8 months or whatever it is, that life monitor will tell you it's time to change the oil, because enough contamination can happen from it just sitting there that it's no good anymore. All right, so Charles is in for double entries. He donates $50. So Charles, I'm going to get you on there for 10 entries. And I just got an entry from Kevin. Let's see which Kevin this is. Kevin Horan. Kevin Horan is in for 10 entries as well. So we're on to a good start here, guys. Like I said, this is a three-peater here, or three-part process, we'll say. You're going to get a good bit of pretty cool engine dress-up stuff. So you might as well jump in on this and get this stuff for a potential, donation, whereas normally it's going to cost you $450 for all that stuff. 92 likes, guys. We should be way past that. See, this is what happens when I'm not demanding likes out of you guys. Please smash the thumbs up button. Let's try to get to 200 thumbs ups. Make sure you get in here for the giveaway going on right now. You can get the engine builder plaque, the access covers, and the latch plate, all with one single donation. All right, so we just got another donation from John. John and James are both in for 50, so that's double entries. And there it is, Riptide Rick. We can't he can't go without entering on this because he got so freaking lucky the last 2 times. All right, so Riptide, you're in for 10 entries again. Riptide Rick, 10. So we got five entries so far, guys. Let's keep going with this. Like I said, this is $450+ worth of stuff that Keith from C8RallyDriver is offering up. So let's make this thing happen. You guys that are members of the channel, next Monday night is going to be the night that we accept the free entries as well. So tonight will not be it. David, he's in for double entries as well. So thank you, David. Okay, so double entries. We got 6 entries right now, guys. Let's keep going with these. What else did we get? Oof. Well, there it is. Kevin Reynolds coming in big. He says, go big or go home. He is in for 30 entries. 30 entries, guys. You're going to let him do that to you? You going to let him do that? Kevin Reynolds coming in big. David Bright got you in for an entry. And while we're talking about C8 Rally Driver stuff, why don't we bring the man, the myth, the legend himself on here? Let's see if he's in here ready to go. He's not. Okay. Well, he's not here just yet, so I guess we'll wait on him for a minute. So, again, guys, if you're interested in getting some engine bay dress-up stuff for your car, if you're just not tuning in, check these things out. These are pretty cool. They can be painted whatever color you want. Color match to your car or carbon fiber. Same thing with the access covers. Can you have your logos, Z06, Stingray, 70th anniversary, Corvette emblem, plus then whatever color you want. And the hatch plate, the latch plate. I have mine in torch red with carbon fiber inserts, and I think it looks freaking awesome. So, yeah, you can win it all tonight. $10 is an entry, $50 or more is double entries. So make sure you jump in here and get on it. Yeah. Riptide Rick ordered edge red hatch supports and gloss carbon fiber mag ride strut covers. Can't wait to see what he orders. Jay Brazelton, welcome back, man. And I'm sorry you're coming back to probably not great weather, but 103 likes, guys. We could do better than that. Let's get going to the 200 area. Where are we at? We got enough people in here watching. We got 150 people watching. Smash the thumbs ups. Let's get those thumbs ups rolling. Professor Corvette says, Justin, can you point out that the 26 roof option is electrochromic, not electrochromatic? People can't seem to get this right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm one of those people because I've been calling it electrochromatic, I think. I actually don't know now. I'm not sure if I was calling it that or not. But either way, that is a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's see, guys. Is there any questions that you guys had about the transmission maintenance that I didn't touch on? Again, I'd like to make this as clear as possible for those of you out there thinking about getting a C8 Corvette that were maybe afraid of this transmission stuff. Yeah, there he is. All right, so we're going to get Keith in here now. Let's see if I can get him on here. There we go. Keith, can you hear me? Ah, I can't hear you though. Why is that? Let me see. Audio settings. Are you using AirPods, Keith? Yep. Okay. So then we will see if I can request that. Huh. Maybe try, if you try leaving and coming back without the AirPods in, see if that will work. Yep. I had you for a second. There it is. There it is. All right. Say something again.
Testing.
All right. There's a little bit of a delay, but I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, this is Keith from C8RallyDriver. He's the guy that is giving away all this amazing stuff for you guys this month. So Keith, I guess I really only have one main question for you, and it's what made you want to design this stuff for a C8 Corvette? Like, what was the inspiration for all this?
Made me want to design car stuff.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
right.
Yeah, it was accidental actually. So I think we met in like what, 2020? When did you
Yeah.
get the red car?
Yeah, 2020.
The 2020?
Yep.
And I had just gotten the Rapid Blue Stingray and drove it over the winter and realized what a mess the engine was getting whenever I drove it. And just decided right then, like, I got to figure out how to clean this engine bay without doing it by hand.
Right.
Right. I think you were asking the same question at the same time. I think I went to like a Christmas like present drive for some kids over in Harrisburg or something, and like it was sunny out, but the roads had, you know, dust and salt on them, and like
Yeah.
I got back and it was just a disaster. And so I ended up like saran wrapping my trunk so I could spray out all the salt, because I was just naturally worried about rust. And it sort of developed into this idea of like, hey, how can we just permanently cover this trunk or something? And that's when it started. Like we built that soft cover, and I don't know if you know the guys at Triple F. I don't know if we talked about them before. You ever seen their channel?
No.
They had a show over in Ohio, the Triple F collection, and AGM was there because they're right there in that area. I was there, and there was one other orange Stingray and a show full of Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and it was amazing how much attention, because the C8s had just been out for, you know, just a few months, and I had this red trunk cover on my trunk with nothing on it, just plain, but it sort of covered up all of my camera equipment and stuff that I was carrying around, and that was sort of the first trunk cover. And then fast forward a few months, and I actually got a call from GM marketing asking about the trunk cover, and they had seen it. Like we made a few for people that asked about it at shows, and so we started making a few of them, and you know, GM licensed it as a product. So that's how it started.
That's pretty cool.
Wasn't a plan.
Yeah. So guys, the trunk cover that he's referring to is this right here. So you can actually have it customized in a bunch of different fashions, whether it's, you know, Corvette related, Stingray, Z06, E-Ray, or you can even do your own custom like mine would have HPO on it. And what this does is this actually goes over your trunk area and kind of seals it off from water, so you can go in there and hose down your engine bay and all that without getting your trunk wet. And what's cooler about it though is, and Keith can attest to this, this was made to kind of clean your engine bay, but what ended up happening was so many people were leaving it on for car show purposes because it also hides the stuff that's in your trunk, and it makes it look a little cooler for car show purposes, but you can't close your trunk when this is installed. So he actually came up with another rendition of this so you could close the trunk and leave it in place for car shows as well. So really a cool product for, you know, the ability to clean your engine bay without having to worry about getting the water everywhere. Yeah, so Keith and I met in 2020, really early on, and I remember he had a car at the time. His blue car was probably more decked out than any C8 that I had ever seen. Like, I had just gotten my C8 and I'm looking at his and he's got all this carbon fiber stuff on. I'm like, what the heck? Like, you've had this car for like 3 weeks. So obviously quite a car guy himself. I've talked about him in the past. Really cool guy. Came out here, spent some time with me last summer for a little while, put a bunch of his parts on my car. His stuff is really not anything that I've seen duplicated, which is odd by itself. Like, you know, the Chinese seem like they always want to duplicate this stuff. The only thing that has been somewhat duplicated was the hatch supports from GM, but they were actually done worse and at a far higher price, and they only come in one color. So whenever I saw those, I was telling Keith, I said, man, that was a really bad attempt by GM. Like, they're not even going to dethrone you, and you're not even like officially GM stuff. I mean, you're licensed, but I just thought that was weird. But that's me saying.
I never told you the story about that, actually. It's a pretty funny story about that one.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, so you remember the boomerang supports? They were sort of angular.
Yeah.
It was the first version of the race light.
Yep.
You had some red ones on your red car. And so, I mean, I don't know, maybe a little over 1,000 of those are out there somewhere. And we still have people asking about them because they find old pictures of them, but we don't make those anymore. We water jet cut those, and they're sort of flat on the sides, and eventually we wanted to go to a more organic looking and lighter version of those boomerangs. But in late 22, marketing called me from GM and was like, hey, tell us more about those supports. Like, how many do you sell? It's really like, it was almost like they were thinking about licensing them, but I was like, these don't make sense to license. Like,
Right, there's
how
nothing
would you
on
put
it.
a Corvette logo on them?
Right.
Like, and that's the only product today that we don't have licensed with GM. All of our front covers, our trunk covers, our carbon trunk covers, the Z06 plaque, even though it doesn't even have a Corvette logo on it, it's a licensed GM product. The access covers, the latch plate, all of those are licensed GM products, except for the race light supports. And then so, you know, it went on a few more questions over the course of a few weeks, and I said, hey, you know, how many of these do you guys want to license these, or do you want me to produce them? And so I talked to them, and they were like, yeah, we're just looking at it. And then, you know, last year? So 2 years went by, and they came out with the Edge Red 3D version. There now in 2020, Justin, I don't know if you know this, but at SEMA, that version did appear in a 3D printed. It was 3D printed. I think Keith or Steve Garrett covered it.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
it showed up at SEMA. It was on the SEMA car in 2021. And it got very little coverage. I think I saw Facebook covering it, and people were just like aghast with how ugly it was.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not that bad.
Right.
But that's actually the origination of the boomerang sport. So I was like, I think we can produce something that looks better than that, because I actually hate that thing.
I'm gonna have to go looking for that now.
Yeah, go look for it. But
so one of the things that I was interested in, and one of these days I was talking to Brandon and David about this. One of these days I'm going to find out. I haven't seen anybody who's had those on their car yet, but whenever I do, I want to take them off and I want to weigh them, because I know that those things are heavier than the stock ones. They have to be.
Oh, the GM version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's so much more to it.
It's kind of wired. It's kind of like a wireframe design. So, it's hard to tell just by looking, but but I get what you're saying. They're pretty large
Yeah.
and have a lot of extra volume to them. So it's hard to tell, but the race light does now our boomerang supports were a little heavier. They were meant to be beefy and sort of like, you know, mechanical looking or, and they weighed a little more than the stock ones, just a couple of ounces. The race lights are just a hair under
Yeah.
the stock ones,
As
but
long as you
God,
get,
don't they look better?
oh, they look fantastically better. But the fact that you can also say that they lose a little bit of weight over the stock ones doesn't matter how much, as long as it's not
Yeah,
adding it.
we've toyed with a full carbon version of those. We just don't know what the market is. Like there's like here's the thing. You asked like what is C8 Rally Driver about? And you mentioned something else which was kind of one of our value propositions. One is design. We haven't made a single product that looks like anything
Yeah.
that comes off of the car or that copies another product. If you look at our Z06 plaque at first, you're like, oh, it's just a Z06 plaque.
Nope. It's
Look a
different.
little
Yep.
careful. Yeah, it doesn't look anything like the Z06 plastic plaque that comes on the car. Um, so it's design, value, and personalization. So like I think our products are reasonably priced given the design and the
Well,
quality that you get.
look at the price of GM's hatch supports.
Oh, sure,
Yeah, I mean, those are
sure.
$2,000 versus yours are a little under 600. So I mean, you could buy what 3, 4 of yours almost.
You have to
Um,
pay for a lot of executives with that,
yeah.
with those GM.
I actually got a question on here that I think you'll
Yeah,
be
go
happy
ahead.
to answer, and it was, um, are you working on anything new?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I, we have 4 products in the pipeline. One that and I'll mention one of my favorite companies, which is Paragon. Jess, I know it's one of your favorite companies, and those guys at Paragon are fantastic. And while we don't design products directly for Paragon, Jeremy was one of the first people that adopted our products. He adopted the soft trunk covers, and we printed Paragon logos on there for him. Um, and then he adopted as soon as we got a license with GM. He started, and Paragon's different than a lot of companies. They carry inventory. So, I heard recently that Corey made a comment about 2 million in inventory. Like they have all of our parts um, in stock all the time. Like we're constantly backfilling inventory for Paragon to support their business model of next day shipping service. So they've been fantastic to work with. But we have 4 products in the pipeline. Um, I feel like that a lot of these will be really well received. There's one product that's exclusively for the hardtop convertible guys. I know that that's a our model was originally around engine bay development, aesthetics, car show, some performance, but not engine performance. Um, and so the one that's kind of more difficult, other than front covers and Z06 plaques, is hardtop convertibles. But we have 2 products coming out that one is for all cars and one is for specifically and exclusively for hardtop convertibles that is not on the market. Again, I, that's another area we focus on is products that are not on the market, maybe on the fringe. All 4 of these, you will not find them on the market right now.
So one of the things coming I know about, right?
One of the things you know about, you do.
Good.
Not quite ready. We're close. But Justin, we're going to print your logo on one and send it to you, and you can help us release it. And I know there's a couple of other folks and companies that would be happy to get this too.
Cool. Professor
It's
Corvette.
it's a fun thing and not necessarily a big thing.
Right.
But we have a couple of big things coming that will be really interesting, and and but go ahead, Justin. You mentioned Professor Corvette.
Yeah, Professor Corvette actually asked a question that I know you'll want to talk about because I couldn't find him on the website, so I don't think you have him on there yet. But he says, in regards to the the trunk covers. How about making a transparent one to protect without hiding?
So the carbon fiber protect without hiding, protect without hiding. So you know, so so the soft cover. This is about GM's engineering too. The handle for the trunk is on the trunk lid, so you reach up to grab the lid, and that handle recesses into the rubber seal of the trunk. So if you look at our carbon fiber covers, you'll see these sort of very interesting cutouts around the latch plate mechanism. And those on the right side is where that handle recesses. On the left side, we did that just so it balances out and you can throw your beer in there or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to put in the left side, you can put in there, your detailing spray. But that's why it's shaped that way. On the soft covers, if you see those little T15s right around the edge there of that picture Justin had up, we actually, for the soft covers, that's where we replace those screws with the anodized black snap stud. And so the soft cover actually snaps on directly around those. And so you see the seal is inside those screws, and that's what creates the water seal. So that's why you can't close the trunk and create a watertight seal with the rear hatch actually shut. So these carbon fiber ones, I've washed more of my Z06 because I drive that more than anything now, but I've washed my Z06 with that one on, and as long as I don't spray directly onto the carbon fiber, some water will sit on there. And because the carbon fiber slips into the groove in the seal, the water will just sit on top of there, and you can just blow it off with a blower and then dry it. I wouldn't spray directly on it, but it keeps out most of the water whenever you do spray. So we can't advertise that. So I didn't say it unless, Justin, you're going to publish this, but don't spray your trunk without a actual covering the seal. But it does work. The carbon fiber does work. Now, you may not have seen this, but if you go to Paragon's site, they actually we've created an exclusive product that has an acrylic window.
Yeah, that's what
And
I was
I would
buying.
love to promote these things because Justin knows, but I'll announce it here. We're actually, because Rapid Blue got discontinued, we're going to swap out VIN number 1249 with another VIN number and get a Rapid Blue Z06, a 3LZ Rapid Blue, same spec as our white car, but we think Rapid Blue is the best color, and like Justin thinks black is the best color. Rapid Blue is our favorite color. But this is the acrylic window version of our carbon fiber cover, and this is really designed to highlight the even cherry, you know, intake system, right? And so, and I think Corey is. You can see there's a. I know whose car this is, but there's a pearl white, white pearl metallic anniversary plaque on that car too. But this has a CNC aluminum bezel on it with a acrylic window, um, and full carbon. It's probably one of the trickiest things we've done, and we do those in black, red, and blue anodized to match all of the CNC anodized caps and things that Paragon does.
Yeah, so that hopefully that answers your question, Professor Corvette. So he does make one that has transparent on it or transparency to it. But Brad Chili Pepper 06 says, are the trunk covers snap-on vinyl or a hard piece? The
soft ones are the soft ones are made of marine grade vinyl. It's a heavy duty, pretty much waterproof vinyl. When they get wet, they will get like soak up a little water underneath as it seeps around, so it doesn't drip into your trunk. I've sprayed mine directly just to test. Obviously, we've sprayed them thousands of times to test these things, and they get a little wet. You lay them in the sun for 15 minutes and they're dry. I keep mine hanging in the garage, and you know, I didn't say why. The other reason we came up with it for washing the car, I have one that I use for car shows, and then one I use when I do car shows. But I have another one I use for just washing the car or both cars, and I just hang it on a ladder in my garage, and it's always dry and right there. but I throw it on to wash. But I have about a 50-yard entry into my back garages, and that entry happens to be gravel.
Oof.
And so when I drive across it,
Yeah.
the on the Stingray more than the Z06, but on the Stingray, the whole bottom around the engine's open. It's like a vacuum on the
Yep.
Stingray for some reason. And I'll dry if it's dry outside. As soon as I get to my garage, it can be clean when when I'm out and I come back and there's dust all over the carbon fiber, Justin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carbon fiber loves to show dust.
Yes, it does. Professor Corvette says that he needs a full car cover with carbon fiber pattern printed on it. That would be pretty cool, actually.
That would be kind of cool.
I put it in the chat here, guys, but if you do go to the C8 Rally Driver website, any of his products there, use code HPO to save 10%. So I'll have a link in the description after I finally set that up. I don't know why it's taken me so long. I've been talking with Keith for 5 years now, and I've yet to do it. So it will be done tonight, I promise. It'll be in the description. He has a lot of cool products. He has 4 more coming, and I know of 2 of them. And the 2 that I know of are really cool. And one of them is one that I've been waiting for forever. And I only know of one person making half of the same kind of thing. Of course, Keith doesn't make anything that somebody else already makes. He took this particular product and added more to it. So it looks pretty cool. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Justin, because I was talking about how dirty the trunk gets, and here's the number one question we get about the internet almost broke the first time I spray foamed my engine bay and washed it out.
Yeah.
Like, we have more video comments on those videos than anything, because why would you foam under your hatch and your whole engine bay and wash it out? Actually, and depending on what model you have, it's in the manual. It tells you actually how much pressure to use, what pressure washer, and sizing and, nozzle, etc. And we asked Taj this at, Carlisle. We're about an hour from Carlisle, so we go down to Corvettes at Carlisle every year and check things out. But if you want to keep your engine bay clean, grab any type of spray on ceramic coating and just spray the heck out of it while it's clean and wipe it down. And then when you wash your engine bay, or if it even gets wet, it just literally, you just rinse it out and blow it out with your blower.
Yeah. All the carbon,
you don't actually even have to touch it.
All the carbon in my engine
all
bay,
the carbon gets clean, everything.
Everything in my engine bay I had polished and ceramic coated for that exact reason. I want to be able to go in there and just hose it out and call it a day.
Yep. It's so fast and so easy to do it that way.
Yep. All right, guys. So we're going to finish up the giveaway for tonight, but for now we're going to let Keith go. Keith, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing a little bit of what makes C8 Rally Driver awesome. So appreciate your time.
Got it, my friend.
Yeah. Well, actually, before I let you go, there's one big thing coming to C8 Rally Driver here pretty soon. Are we allowed to discuss that? The biggest thing.
The biggest thing?
Yeah.
Geez, you got me off guard, so I'm going to say no.
It's got 4 wheels outside of the.
Oh yeah. You could definitely discuss that. I actually mentioned that. I think you're looking something up, but yeah.
No. You mentioned the Z06. I'm talking about the other 4-wheel thing.
Go ahead.
All right. So Keith has a C8 ZR1 on order. And last I talked to him, he's at 3,000 status, right? Or have you moved from there?
Yeah, well, I was a victim of the Rapid Blue debacle.
Oh, that's right. So, that sucks.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sebring orange.
Okay.
Is the color of choice, and we're keeping fingers crossed that we don't become a victim of the high wing debacle. Because that's again, you want the full package. If you're buying a ZR1, why are you buying a cruiser? In my opinion, I get it, right? But maybe you don't like high wings, but I think I don't. So my Rapid Blue Stingray, I ordered it. It's fully loaded, every option. except for Z51 because I wanted no wing at all, nothing on it, and it still has nothing on it. But it has Z51 everything else. It actually has carbon ceramic brakes and Z51 suspension because we upgraded everything except for we didn't want a wing on it. You just
Yeah.
wanted something different on that car. But on the ZR1, you got to have the wing.
I agree.
Like you're putting a wing on your car aftermarket on your Z06, right?
Well,
Are you still doing that?
It's funny. Yeah. So I have the Z07 wing on there now. My car is not a Z07, but I'm going to be putting out a series of videos here pretty soon to tell you that my car wasn't a Z07 when I bought it. It is currently 100% a Z07 car now. So
Exactly.
you can put together however you want to do it. I have every single part that a Z07 car has on their car. I have it now, and I mean every single part. So you'll see that in the future, but that is something, and I've talked about this a couple times because everybody was asking me, well, because I passed on a first round allocation for a ZR1 because I couldn't get the ZTK at the time. And they were like, well, why didn't you just get it and then add it later? And I'm like, it's not the same. It's not the same as the Z07 kit. It's because the car will come with certain parts that are carbon fiber regardless. Then I have to try to match that carbon fiber with aftermarket carbon, and it's not gonna work. I don't want to do that with a car that's 215 grand.
I totally agree. That was our Z06 debacle. We could have passed and waited, but it just didn't look like we would get another chance at a Z07 car for
Right.
a while, and we needed the Z06 for development. But honestly, the Z06 is just one of the most amazing cars. I've had a lot
really
of
is.
cars,
It really is.
and it's phenomenal to drive. Yeah, phenomenal car. But anyway, hey Justin, appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
We'll let's stay in touch and let's get together soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Keith.
All right, my friend. All right, bye.
All right, guys. So there you have it. Professor Corvette says, rumor for 2027, the ZR1 will have 11 piston brakes. Why not 10 and a half? Let's just call it 10 and a half. Oh God, that's good stuff though. So yeah, guys, there you have it. That was Keith from C8RallyDriver. If you're just tuning in, we had him on here because he is the sponsor of the month. And we are going to wrap this thing up though, because I want to give these items away to you guys. We have, let's call it 3 more minutes. If you guys want to get in on this giveaway for the C8RallyDriver parts tonight, we have 3 different parts being given away all together. So one winner will get all 3. We got the Z06 plaque, any color you want, including 2 different options of carbon fiber, forged carbon and your regular 3K carbon, which will look like your normal carbon fiber. The C8 access covers, which will cover up where the seat belts are. These can come in any color as well. And you can also add GM logos to it, like Z06, Stingray, Corvette emblem. And then we have the latch plates that are anodized or aluminum base, can be painted whatever color you want. And you can then put a carbon fiber insert in there or another insert painted a different color. All of this stuff comes to roughly $450. You could win it tonight for a donation of $10. So $10 will get you an entry, $50 or more will get you double entries. I'm going to give you guys another couple minutes here, but ultimately we're going to run this wheel tonight and someone's going to win. And guys, don't let it be Riptide Rick again. You got to knock him out. I mean, not that I don't mind Riptide. You could win all day long, but if you guys want a chance, you gotta take your chance. You can't just let Riptide take it. Let's see. Oh, I did get a couple questions about the torque on the bolts for the DCT. I wanted to talk about this real quick before we kind of shut this off, because the torque is 53 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. So 53 inch-pounds, which means your torque wrench will be only about this long. Very small torque wrench. Don't go in there with 53 foot-pounds or pound-feet. It's going to break. But if you did manage to break it, and you think life as you know it is over, if you did manage to strip one of those out, believe it or not, The housing assembly for the C8 DCT is separate from the transmission itself. So you could actually buy that and replace it without swapping out the entire transmission. So if you manage to put a bolt in there and you accidentally torqued it down too much and you snapped it off, not all is lost. You can replace that particular housing and, you know, you don't have to drop the entire transmission. So that's good. But 53 inch-pounds, very, very light. You don't have to gorilla torque them. For the most part, that plate is held in place with a rubber O-ring that actually fits up into that housing. So for the most part, those bolts are only there to prevent that plate from vibrating off. Correct. Inch-pounds. Let's see. Steven says, love my carbon fiber trunk cover and inventory window. Yeah, you're actually one of the first ones I saw that had that. So very cool. Again, guys, if you go to the C8RallyDriver website, use code HPO. We'll save you 10%. If you don't win this stuff tonight, you could still save 10% off. CC says, can you discuss the drive/reverse procedure during/after the DCT fluid fill? That is a good question, and I actually had that procedure saved somewhere. Let me see if I still have it here. I think I might have closed that out. Yeah. Well, that sucks. I did have that open here, and I wanted to talk about that, but I must have closed it by accident. Anyway, yeah, there is a process to after you add the fluid that you're supposed to drive the car in forward and reverse a couple different times to make sure that all of the fluid, first off, has found all of the different gears, all of the different mechanisms in the transmission. Make sure that everything is completely covered in the new fluid and that it has made its way through the filter and everything so that you're topped off. I don't have the procedure up here, but that's pretty cool. Lewis says he sent me a Metallica video that was from their show in Nashville earlier this month. That's awesome. There it is. So Keith said he dropped out on the video, but he honestly needs to see who wins. Is it Riptide Rick while he finishes his beer? LOL, it's not rigged. There you go. It's only really Professor Corvette that puts that in there. And I feel like, I know he's joking, but at the same time, I feel like I have to constantly defend myself because it's a website that has a random wheel on it that I click a button on. There's literally nothing else I can do to it. There's 4 bolts that hold that pan or that plate up against the transmission, if that's what you're talking about. There it is. Professor Corvette says, has the giveaway wheel been tested for proper performance recently? It has not had its transmission filter changed recently, no. That's true. If you break a lot of those bolts, yeah. Yeah, right? Kevin says you need your own stand-up show here. What's up, Kevin? Thanks for tuning in. There it is. So C8RallyDriver says that Steven wasn't one of the first. He was the first. That makes sense. He'll be performing nightly at Carlisle. Heck yeah, man. I'll give you the stage. If you hang out at the booth, you can just sit there and tell jokes all day long. Enter Sandman. Nice. All right. So, real quick, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about on the transmission. For those of you outside of the fact that it was 53 inch-pounds for those bolts are not your typical bolts. The socket you will need to get those off is called, I think it was an eTorx. Yeah, eTorx. This is the same set that I bought. So it's actually available on Amazon. It's only 15, 16 bucks. And it comes with both sockets that you're going to need because you'll need a smaller one, I believe the E8, to remove the filter housing plate. Then you're going to also need, I believe it was the E12 or another one of them to remove the bolts for the pan. So you can drop that entire pan down if you had to. if you don't have one of those magical access doors. So this set is available on Amazon. It's only $15. Like I said, definitely grab that if you do plan on doing this yourself. Any of the maintenance we talked about tonight, this is a really good set of sockets to have. Again, guys, if you could please smash the thumbs up button if you're still in here and you have not hit it so far. Smash that for me. E8 and E16, says John Perkins. So there we go. We got all the information for the transmission covered in this live video. So at any point, if you guys ever need to reference any of this information, it will be here forever on this channel. E8, E16, we'll get the panels off. We'll get the filter housing down. Change that filter every 7,500 miles, or at first 7,500 miles, and every 22,500 after that. Unless you're like me, do it every oil change. The fluid is 45,000 miles or 3 years. Odds are very good you're not going to hit 45,000 miles, but you will hit 3 years. And once you do, you need to drain the old fluid and fill it up with the new fluid. The fluid that you need to use is a very specific fluid. It is right here. It has the part number right there on it. Looks like 194180016. That's the fluid you need. Make sure it is not expired before you crack it open and start dumping it in. You're going to need at least 12 of these. And it is a drain and fill procedure. There's no flush needed for the filter or the fluid itself. That needs to be done every 3 years, regardless of mileage. So if you have 1,000 miles on your car, but it's been 3 years, you got to change that fluid. Afterwards, you put the bolts back in for the filter, 53 inch-pounds. Drain port is on the bottom of the transmission. Fill port's right on the side. Overfill port is on the top behind the airbox. I think that's pretty much it. That covers all of it. And again, guys, I really wanted to do this because a lot of people out there were talking about this transmission procedure and maintenance just being so much, and really it's not. But anyway, it doesn't look like we got any more entries, so I'm going to go ahead and set up this wheel. So we got Charles. All right, I'm setting all these up here for you guys now. Just bear with me. Riptide Rick. It's interesting because Kevin Reynolds, he has 30 entries, so he's leading the pack here. All right, so here we go, guys. Are you guys ready for this? You ready? What's a good set of nylon pry tools to buy? Really, any of them. There's not really a great set. They're all pretty much the same. I have like 4 different sets and I use them all interchangeably. So go to Amazon, type in nylon pry tool. You're good to go. So here we go. The wheel. Who's going to win it tonight? Here we go. Oh, not Riptide Rick this time. That's definitely got to be Kevin. So there it is. Kevin donated $150. He wins $460 worth of stuff. So Kevin, shoot me your information. I know I already have it, but I like to have record of all this stuff. So just email me, and I will make sure that you are set up with the with your winnings. So thanks everybody for the support. Kevin, congratulations. Big thank you to Keith for coming on tonight. Check out C8RallyDriver.com, guys. Anything you buy from there, use the code HPO, and it will save you 10%. So if you didn't win here tonight, you could still save yourself 10%. Big congrats. Thanks for the support as usual, guys. Smash the thumbs up if you can for me one more time. Other than that, I will see you guys same time, same place next Monday night. See ya.